as I said, even if you don't have version 9 of the software, you can still work with the lessons. One of the things when you turn on your software, when you bring up your software, I always suggest to people to create a template. And this template is going to be used for making the software behave the way you want it to behave. And what I mean by that is, if you noticed down here, these are the color chips in the software. And if I hover over one of these color chips, let's just see, you'll see it says Bernina as the thread brand. And if I come over to another one and it says Bernina, and I don't know about you, but I didn't even know Bernina made thread. You know, so wouldn't it be better if we had these in the thread colors that I prefer to use? And so what I can do is I can come up here to the upper part of the software under design, and then I can go down here. It's the second choice here, and it says thread colors. And when I click on this, these are the currently used threads. This is the thread chart that I wouldn't mind using. This is called Isocore. But if you're not using Isocore, can you use another brand? Well, look, I can click here and look at all of these color families that you can use. Everything from Floriani to Brother to Janome thread to Madeira, Metler. Some of these I think are more European, because like auto thread, I have no idea what auto thread is. But if you had a collection of auto thread, you could certainly make that your choice. But I'm going to go ahead and choose Isocore 40. And if you notice, once again, up here, this is still saying Bernina. So all I have to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to come and click on Match and Assign All. And look at that, with just one click of the button. Do you see how all of my threads now are Isocore? And can we just say ooh, ah for that?
Ooh, ah.
Yes.
Ooh, ah.
So I'm going to click on OK. And then to prove the point, if I come down here and hover on the color chip, do you see how now it says Isocore 40? And if I come over here and I'm going to hover on this color chip, do you see how it says 2530 Rose Isocore 40? Yes?
Yes.
So these are good things. We want the software to behave like this. Now, if I closed my software and brought it back up, guess what thread palette it would be in? Bernina.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because that is the template that comes up normally. So what I would like to do is I want to show you, again, I could do additional things before I save a template. I could come up here and say, you know, instead of being the United States, the imperial system, I want this to be metric. I want this to be US, but you could absolutely do that. I could also come over here. See, these are where my hoops are. And I could click on my show hoop and it's bringing up the large oval hoop. How do I know it's the large oval hoop? Well, I have a picture of it here, but I may not recognize it out of this police lineup. So what I can do is I can come over here and right click on this. And look, this is showing me my machine. This is showing me all of the available hoops for this machine. But what if I am not a Bernina owner? Well, I can come over here and I can click on machine and I can scroll down and I could say, I want baby lock. And let's just say I'm working with a, I don't know, an Elissimo. Now what I have are all of the hoops that are for Elissimo. And if I save that to the template, every time I opened up my software, guess what? It would show an Elissimo large hoop, for instance, if that's what I chose. I generally, when I'm working with the software, and again, just to prove the point, sorry, but you know, if I come down here, now I have my Genomes, right? And if I come down further, now I have Foth. And if I come down further, now I have Husqvarna Viking. So all the major players, here's Singer, and here's other. So if we have a lineup of oranges and you're the apple, be proud, be the apple. and then you could create your own hoops and do what have you. So again, the software is not only geared for Bernina, but for all of the other major players in the embroidery and sewing world. So I'm coming back up here just so, because this is the machine I have, and I have an 8 series machine, and I'm going to leave it as the large oval. And I'm going to click on OK. If you notice, when I'm coming up to this icon, do you see how it has like a blue background behind it? Well, that means that the icon is active. Notice that the icon right next to it, which is what the show hoop with the template, is grayed out. And like here, this is like the show grid. If I clicked on show grid, now I have a grid. If I left it like that and saved a template, then every time I open the software, guess what? I would have a large oval Bernina hoop with a grid on it using Isocore thread. Is this making sense? So I'm setting everything up for how I want the software to work. So what I want, because it's my software and not yours, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the grid, and I'm going to turn off the hoop. I don't need to see any of those things at this point. And I'm going to come
Could you just repeat where you had Isocore coming up in the template?
So how I chose Isocore?
No, like how it won't come. Is there any way to make, I thought you had said that now when you open it, Isocore will show instead of Bernina.
Only after I save a template.
Okay, you
So
haven't
what
done
I'm
that
doing
yet?
is, pardon me?
You haven't gotten to that yet. Sorry.
No, it's fine. What I'm showing Amanda is the fact that I could select a hoop, change the size of the hoop, what machine I'm using. I could
Got it.
change the background color. It's too much information now. I'm just showing you how to save a template. And that's exactly what I'm going to do next.
Okay, sorry.
No, please.
I thought I had missed that. Sorry.
No, please. And it's good. It's good to ask questions. And guys, there are not a whole lot of folks with us on this call at this point. So you feel free if you wanted to unmute yourself, so long as you don't have a dog barking in the background. I'm cool with that. If you're muted, the way that you can talk to me or ask a question is hold down your space bar. That's generally the default settings for Zoom. The other thing I would want to make sure, guys, is that my color strip, my color film, some programs call this a sequencer, that this is also available. If your software looks like this, and it wouldn't, if you were on their original template, when you bring the software up, you'll have this color film. But all of your Dockers, I'm going to call these Dockers that live here, and I'm going to call what lives on the left side of the software toolboxes. But what would happen is if you didn't see your color film here, you just come up here. These are all of the Dockers. And I want the color film. That's this one here. And you'll see how that comes up. If I click on this thumbtack, see how when I hover over it, it'll say auto hide. When I click on this, what'll happen is it will go out of the way unless I need it. And if I hover back over here and click, it comes out. But if I go off of it and I'm doing other things, it eventually tucks its way out like it just did. I particularly don't care for that because I oftentimes am looking at that color film all the time. So the way I want to set up my template is I'm going to click on the color film and I'm going to lock it by making sure that thumbtack is pointing down. And this is the same. What I'm telling you now, guys, is the exact same thing, regardless if you're on version 8 or if you're on version 9 software. Okay. So what I want to do now is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go File. And I'm going to come down to where it says Save As. And when I click on Save As, I'm going to come over here. Do you see where it says Save As Type? What's going to happen when you save it as type? It's going to presume you were saving like an embroidery design. And this embroidery design, notice it says Art 90. Yours might say Art 80 if you are on the version 8 software. This has nothing to do with what you would send over to your machine. There are no machines that read an Art 90 file. This file is used purely for having the full capacity to edit any of your designs. If I was, say, on a Bernina machine, per se, what I would more than likely do is I would come up and I would save this as an EXP. And so and how I would do that, I'm just going to cancel out of here for a second, is I would need to go File, and I would need to go to Export Machine File. So this is an important consideration. There's two ways you can bring designs out of the software. One is as a save as. And if you're doing it as a save as, it's presuming you're saving this as an editing file, which you generally want to save. But if I want to work with a machine and send it over to a USB stick, for instance, or for the new Wi-Fi adapter, if you have version 9 and you've got that little attachment, this is how I would want to save it. For Bernina, it would be an EXP file. This is actually called an EXP Plus. If I'm on a Baby Lock, I would come over here and I would save this as a PES. If I'm on a Viking, I would save it as a VP3. If I'm on a FAF reads VP3, but that's neither here nor there, but it can also read these specific files. So you would look for your machine, like a Janome would be a JEF, and you would save it as that file type. And that's how you export it to a USB stick or to your wireless device. So back to the template.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
If you have a PES file, okay, will the machine read it or no? Will the Bernina read it or not?
Yeah, it's a great question, Karen. And so if you have, and I believe you do, if you have a Plus machine, it will read the PES file. It will read Baby Lock file format. Okay. And that's generally how I want to save things if I have a Plus machine. Because as I mentioned in several classes, but it's worth mentioning again, if I save a file as an EXP Plus, which is what Bernina calls the EXP, it's actually saving 3 files. It's saving an EXP, which is the stitch information. It's saving a BMP, which is the picture that appears on your screen. And it's saving an INF file, and that is the thread color information. A PES combines all of this into one package. Generally, if you were saving with an EXP file out of Bernina, it saves it, when you look at your USB stick, as 3 different files. You'll see it on the USB stick as 3 different files, just as I'd mentioned, the EXP, the BMP, the INF. But when you put the USB stick in your Bernina machine, it only sees 1 file. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, the only thing is when you go into export, right? You're just seeing EXP, or is there an option for PES?
Yes, as I said, but let me go back here, Karen.
Okay.
So I'm under File, and I'm going to come all the way down to where it says Export Machine File.
Right.
And then I'm coming over here, and this is where I could name the file. This is the file type, and this is what you're after, Karen. What you want to do is you want to click on the down arrow, and you want to come up here to where it says PES.
Okay.
Okay. And then once you click on this, you see now it says PES here, and I'll click Save. It's important that when you do a save as, there's actually 3 things that you're saving. You're saving the name of the file. This is just a generic name, Design 1. You're saving the file type. In this case, it's a PES. But you're also saving, where are you saving this to? In this case, it's going to an external hard drive, which I wouldn't want. That's not where I want to put it. If I plugged in a USB stick, you would see like an H drive come up here, and then that's where I would save it. Does this make sense?
Right. I did this week, as far as, but I did an EXP.
Yes.
But it doesn't have any impact on my stitching, right? I mean,
No,
I've only got
absolutely not.
2 colors on this particular item, so.
No, and Karen, you're fine to work with either file type. The only caveat I have is this: if you saved your because you have a Bernina 880, so if you saved it as an EXP Plus onto your USB stick and you took the USB stick to your machine, you would see the file, like it would say design 1, you would click on it and you're good. You're ready to party with your machine. It has all the information you need. The
Okay.
only caveat is if you were saving EXP files like onto your USB stick and then you go into the USB stick, you'll see those 3 files I just mentioned, the EXP, the BMP, and the INF. And if perhaps you lost the INF or the BP, like for some reason those were taken off of the stick, you would not have a complete EXP Plus file. But if you save it as a PES, you can still party with your Bernina 880. It's the same functionality, but there's only one file. There's only one file to worry about. And that contains all the information. So again, if you had a Plus machine, I would probably lean more towards saving things as a PES to stitch out on your machine. For those of us that maybe have a Bernina 220, a Bernina 425, an Aurora, those types of machines, then the EXP is the only way to go because those machines do not understand PES. Does this make sense?
And my 790 Plus will take the PES too, right?
You are correct. As long as
Okay.
it's a Plus machine, Karen.
Okay.
Like if you bought like a modern machine, on the machine itself, it'll say Plus on it. If like myself, I have an 880 and a 790, but I purchased them before that upgrade came out. And so my machines are Plus machines, but it was an additional firmware that I had to put on the machine to upgrade it for the features. Okay. All right. So in addition, I'm still getting to this template now, and it's good to take the detours. That's why I like to have a dialogue and not a monologue with you guys. So ask the
Shannon.
questions as I'm working. Yes.
Shannon, one more question.
Of
Is the
course.
PES advantageous over the EXP?
Sandy, only if you're finding that it has the exact same information, it just puts it on the USB stick in a different fashion. So
Okay.
if I have, again, those Plus machines, Sandy, I would more than likely work with PES and not bother with EXP Plus anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, it's a pleasure. The only caveat is if you're working, and those of you with DesignWorks, your files are always saved as an EXP Plus because it's locked. You cannot save a DesignWorks file and do it on, say, a Baby Lock machine. That architecture is locked. So you're always saving as an EXP Plus. Okay. So one of the things that some of you may not know, like when you're starting up your software, folks, many of you have had the version 9 for a while. I am presuming that many of you are starting in the embroidery canvas, which is where we are today. Some of you might be starting in this screen. Let me just go over here. And there's nothing wrong with this screen. Let me just get it to load up. This is like the home screen. And if you were saving your designs as a you're saving your designs and you want to like bring up your most recent one, you can see all of my most recent things are here. I've got tutorials on the right side. You know, I got a tutorial video thing here. There's a help menu here. There's a lot of good stuff on the home page. It's just that generally when I'm using the software, this is not where I'm gonna generally go per se. So what I want to do is I want to generally start in the embroidery canvas, which is up here. So when I click on this, this brings up this screen. And I would want my software to always start like this. So this is all part of the template once again. So how I get this is I'm going to go under settings and go down to options. And what I want to see is under general. This general screen has so much information, and I don't know if you guys are generally in here, but it's important to take some time to look over this. And these are things I would also want to set up before saving a template. So one of the things is like auto save designs like every 10 minutes. That's a good thing. I don't know if your software ever crashes, but if it hasn't crashed, you're not using it enough. I'm just letting you know, it's gonna crash. It's just the scheme of things. The other thing that I would say to pay a close attention to is if you're touching up your bitmaps, do you see how we can use the Corel Photo Paint? This is part of our software. Paint is part of Windows. So everyone that has like a Windows operating system has this program called Paint. The Corel Photo Paint, I think, is a little more robust. The Paint is a little more straightforward. Okay. So I have this checked as Paint because generally when I'm teaching, I'm going into Paint, but I do want you to know that you can have it default when you're going into touch-up bitmap to go into Corel Photo Paint. If this is not making sense to you, let this wash over you. Don't worry about it. What you should not worry, but take into consideration is this: start in. I want a tick mark here on embroidery canvas, because that way, every time I start my software, it starts where you see me now in the embroidery canvas. That's where I want to be. Where Bernina, when you initially install your Bernina software, where it's initially putting you is in the home screen. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you go into the home screen, it may remind you that it exists. And that's a good thing, because again, that's where we find the tutorials and the videos and all those good things here. You could also have it start in the embroidery library, which is where we pull all of our designs. And in this software, if you come up here, this is your embroidery library right here. So you can get to any of these places. Again, the embroidery library, the embroidery canvas, the artwork canvas, otherwise known as Corel, and the home screen, which is here. So all of these things are at your fingertips. It's just what do you want the software to start in? Does this make sense?
Yep.
So for me, and it's just me, and it's my computer, it's my software, embroidery canvas is where I choose to start. Now, it also will, when you're working with fonts, it will bring up the last, in this case, 5 fonts that I've worked in, and that's fine with me. You could increase the number, what have you. But generally, when I start typing in fonts and I start bringing things up, it does like suggestions. I just leave it as the default. Font preview size, extra large. Why? Because I have 63-year-old eyes. So, and nothing can be big enough now. I don't know about you guys, but that's just it. I used to have just monofocal glasses. Then I had to go to bifocals, and I'm a musician, and now I have to have another pair for reading sheet music. So it's like I've got all of these darn glasses, and I just turned into my mother, who I loved very much, but I remember her with all of her glasses. So here we go, genetics or something to it. This other thing is also a important consideration. What it has checked off, I would recommend checking off, with the exception of this: auto start Wi-Fi connector. And again, whose computer is this? It's my computer. It's not your computer. How do I send over designs? I'm generally putting on a USB stick and sending the thing on over. I'm generally not using the Wi-Fi. With the last update that we had, what Bernina did is they made it so that the Wi-Fi communication would load up when you loaded up the software, which is a good thing. And if you're using the Wi-Fi device with any regularity, I would leave that checked on. The reason why I don't have it checked on is it runs in the background. And if I'm not using it, why do I want one more thing running in the background, taking up RAM that could potentially, not saying it would, but it could potentially crash the computer? I'm just putting it out there. And the sky is falling. I'm sure that they've done a lot of testing. This was what happened when we had the delay in the software. It originally was launched in September of last year. And my goodness, a couple of us updated to it, and then they found out that they were having issues with the Wi-Fi connector and a couple of other things. And so there was a relaunch of the software. When I get out of the screen, I'm going to go up to make sure that everyone's on the same screen. But I would leave this unchecked. And then what I make sure to check is check for updates on startup. So providing that your software is, or your computer is online, when you load the software, when you boot it up, it automatically checks for these updates for us. Okay, so that's an important consideration. Any questions about this page?
No.
Okay, so let me go ahead and say, okay. So I'm coming up here and I'm going to go under help and I'm going to come down here. Do you see how I could manually check for updates right
Yep.
here? So I could click on this and it would go out purposely and say, hey, is there an update? If I'm thinking maybe it's not seeing it, but so long as I have that automatic check each time, you should be good. The other thing I wanted to make sure is under about that you guys are all on the current version, which is version 9.0.3, the 7th of November, 2022. That is the current version. Bernina is not a company that comes out with updates every other month. There are some companies that do. This company does not. It's very conservative in their development. But if there is an update that comes out, you will certainly grab that. So with all of that being said, I'm going to come up here under File, and I'm going to come down here and look at this, Save as Template. Save as Template, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and I'm going to write in, notice that under Template, there is a template called Normal, and this lives on your system. Your normal template is what Bernina decided was how they were going to put the software out. So I can come in here and I'm going to say, I want to put this as Shannon's Abby Normal. Those of you guys that remember Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm going to click on Save. Now, if I come up here, and again, remember I'm on this down here, like this saying Isacore, etc. If I'm coming up here and I'm going to say File, New from Template, New from Template, I'm going to say there is the Bernina factory default and there's Shannon Abbey normal. If I click on this, the screen's going to say Isacore, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be kind of boring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on normal, click on OK. And now when I come down here, look what I got. I've got me a Bernina thread palette again, right? It's
Yep.
all back to what it had been. If you do not care about ever saving or ever saving what Bernina put out, you could save it as normal. And then every time you load the software, it'll always come in with your settings. If, however, you wanted the option, then what I would suggest is, excuse me, is I would take the new from template once again, and I would save like the ones, like I would say the ones that I want, I would save it as normal. So it always comes the way I want it. But then I would save my second template, say as Bernina normal. And then I could always bring up the defaults. Okay, so where I'm going with this once again, before you made any changes in your software, if you save it as Bernina normal, those original settings will always be with you. But if I choose that I want like the large oval hoop, I want the Bernina thread, I want it to read US measurements, I don't want the Wi-Fi to ever be turned on, all those types of things, then I would save that as the normal. And then I don't have to, let me cancel. I don't have to come up here and go, you know, File, New from Template. I just go New. If I say New, it's going to always pull up from the normal template. That was a lot of information. Does someone have any questions for me about that?
Do you have to, if you create your own template, okay, do you have to then go in and select that every time you want to use it? If you,
It's a good question. So if I saved, like if I made all of my changes and then I saved it as the normal template, then I don't. I just have to go File, New, and because that always pulls up normal template.
right.
If I wanted to save Bernina's choices, which I particularly don't need to, but I'm just giving you that as the option, because a lot of people say, I want what Bernina originally gave me, or at least the option to get back to that. Then I would save what Bernina gave you as Bernina normal. And then whatever changes I make would be saved under normal. And then when I come up and I say new, or I come here and click on new, it's going to always pull up from the normal template.
Okay, so if I'm understanding right, I went back to Bernina, the regular normal, and I went to save as template Bernina normal.
Yes.
Now I'm going to go back to Kat's Abbey normal, and I'm going to save that as normal.
As normal. You can only have one normal. So you may elect to make that what Bernina says. I personally would make it what I say. But I would save whatever Bernina says on the normal.
Okay,
So your
what-
normal, so your normal is your default, basically.
The normal is the default, yes.
Right.
But
Okay.
I can go to any template that I need, and there's sometimes that I will. Let's say, for instance, I have a 10 needle embroidery machine. And with 10 needles, do I need all of these colors? Everyone's saying no. So I might
Mhm.
reduce the color palette to 10, put the ones that I normally have on my machine, and then I'm going to save this as my 10 needle template. Now, true enough, if I'm going to design for that machine, I would need to come under here, File. I would have to say New from Template, and then I'd have to choose my 10 needle template.
Right.
Okay. So I had a really good question, a couple actually. One of them was, how do I bring in a machine, bring in a design that I purchased off of the internet, do some basic manipulation and save it for my machine stitch out. And then I had another one who sent me a design that was really pretty. I like it when people send me designs that I think are really pretty because it's a bonus. And so I want to talk to you about bringing in designs into the software, how to save them, how to send them to the machine, how to do some basic manipulation. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just keeping an eye on the participant boxes. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to point out is if I come up here, notice how this says design 2. This is just a generic placeholder. If I come up here and I click on new, do you see how it says design 4 now?
Mm-hmm.
Design 3 was back here, by the way. I just named it something. If I click this new again, it's going to say design 5. So up here, all of these boxes give us, in essence, pages that we could go from one to another and cut and paste and work with designs that way, which is really cool. We can absolutely do a class on that. That's a very cool thing. But the thing I wanted to point out is there's a difference in how you bring in designs. Let me show you what I mean. If I come up here to File, which is how most of us would bring in designs, and I come down here and I say, Open Design. And what that's going to do is it's going to take me to the last location I was in, which in essence, this was the design that was presented to me. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this design in. So let me just bring this in here. This is as a PES. I'm going to say open. Notice I get this dialog, non-native for design. This is one of the only programs I know that is so, how to say, conscientious about telling you when you are not working with non-Bernina designs. You will get this dialog box. Does this say that this is a bad design? No, it just says that this design, it gives me the location, is not a grade A or a B art file. So it's not an original, it's not an original design made from Bernina software. It says resizing this design more than 10% larger or smaller may produce poor quality of embroidery. And what they're talking about is if you're resizing a design, let me just click on OK so we can get a picture up here. Isn't that pretty?
Mhm.
I'm telling you. So the person that sent me this design, if you have any more problems with any of your designs, feel free. It's gorgeous.
Will do. It-
Yeah, so,
it's urban threads, and I love them.
yeah, so notice I have this design here, and notice up here that it says bouquet of flavor wine glass. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create a new page. And I'm coming this time up to here. This says insert embroidery. And when I click on insert embroidery, I'm taken to the last place I was, which was today's class file in essence. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on this second design. There's two designs. One that she has, let me see if I can move. And guys, are you seeing my my dialog box here? Are you seeing the files? Yes.
Yes,
I see
yes,
Bart shaking her head.
Yes,
So do you see how this one here says Art 90
right.
and the one down here says .pes?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same design, but at one point it was saved as an Art 90, which we think this is good. This is good. This gives me all the information I need, etc. And in this, I'm saying this is not an A nor a B. This is a baby lock design or a design built for brother and baby lock machines. So I'm going to click on this design. Okay. Notice that it's giving me this information, the location of it, what the name of it is, the size of it, the color, number of stitches, the colors, et cetera, et cetera. That's like really good information. And I'm going to click on open. Look at the dialog box I just got. This is telling me the exact same thing that I got when I loaded the PES design. Does it not? It's saying the exact same thing. So even though this was saved as an Art 90, it is not an Art 90. It was saved as an Art 90, but there's no unique information that was created in the software. Now, I'm going to click on OK. You're going to see it's the exact same design, guys, right? And you see how close I'm zoomed in? Wouldn't it be nice if I could just say zoom to fit? So, and not just say it, but do it. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click here and I'm going to say to fit. And look at that. My design is right where I need to see it. I love that about the software. It is telling me that it's 15,385 stitches. It is telling me the size in inches, 4 by 8 1/4, roundabouts, etc. So there's a lot of information down here. In fact, there's so much information down here that guess what they call this? They call this the information bar. And so when you're doing things like maybe you're I don't know, working with applique. Maybe you're working with applique and you're creating the points. I'm not going to get into applique today, but it'll say enter point 1, point 2 on boundary 1. And then when you hit enter, it says now enter point 1 on boundary 2. It's trying to create this applique for us, but you wouldn't know what you need to do unless you look down here generally, because it gives us the steps that we need in that lower left-hand corner. So that information bar is just something when you're working with lessons that it's a really good idea to keep an eye on. Now, if you noticed, if I save this, like say for instance, if I came in here and I went into lettering and I come in and I right click, which I get a dialog box, and I'm going to click on the word wine, or I'm going to spell out the word wine, and I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to click here and I get this little wine sign, right? And I can resize it. It's just the world's your oyster. I could take this and change the color to a more winey color. You could do all those things. If I saved this as an Art 90, this would make more sense. This is still a PES. It has object information, but it doesn't know what kind of fill you used. It does not know what your stitch lengths were. It doesn't know this, but it does know wine. It knows what font it was. It knows what size it is. And so if I saved it as an Art 90, because I needed to do some more editing and I needed to figure out what was the font, or yeah, the font that was used here, the Art 90 would tell me. If this was a PES, all it would say is these are objects that look to me when they're all put together that they spell the word wine, but it certainly does not know that this was Arial 2280 and the exact programming in it. So that's when you would save an Art 90, when I need to do more editing and I want to save all these things in case I have to edit the lettering, etc. To save a PES, just a PES as an Art 90 doesn't give us any more information. But if you notice up here, look at this. This says Design 5. And if I click right next door, it's the same wine glass without the words wine. But look at what this says, Bouquet of Flower Wine Glass. This was brought in once again by coming up here and going File, Open Design. This is how I brought this in. This design, I brought this in by going in Insert Embroidery. When you're working in this software, this is important. This is important, what I'm going to tell you next. If you do not want to change the original design, I would always open designs by going into Insert Embroidery, not by File Open, because this is pointing to the original file location with its name. If I came here, did some things with the stitching, and then came over here and went File, Save, this file is going to be rewritten. And I will lose that file as far as what the original information was. If I chose to work that way, what I would need to do, what I would need to consider, first of all, don't do that. But the second thing is I would always go Save As. Because remember, when I go to Save As, I get this dialog box. And again, Save As is always asking me to do three things. It's asking me to name this. So I could name this like Shannon. You know, so it's Bouquet of Flower Wine Glass Shannon. So I changed the name. It asks me to name it as a specific file type. And it's asking me to choose the location, to choose always three things as a save as. If you click on save, it just saves whatever you did to the original name, to the original location, and it's done and it's changed. We have many designs built into our software. If you happen to change some of the original designs that are in our software, and it mattered to you a lot, it would to me. I would like to keep it pristine per se. You could always elect to copy the folder that contains all the designs. And you know, where you would find that, by the way, is if I was looking for where my designs are kept, the ones that are inherent to the software, I would go under File, Open Design. I would need to go down to the C drive, down to Users, up to Public, and then I need to go under Public Embroidery and V9. If you do not know this, look on my screen and write this path down. Again, it's this PC, the C drive, which is your main drive, Users, Public, Public Embroidery, Bernina 9 Embroidery. Okay. So these,
I just realized I have Bernina 8.
Or take a picture.
yeah, you could take a picture. Kat, if you have, you could have version 8, because see here, I have my version 8 here, right? That's fine. In fact, I would say keep that, girl, because this is a backup of a lot of the things that are in version 9. You know what I'm saying? I'm generally only accessing version 8, but if you look at, say, version 8, let me just go into version 8. See these categories? These are pretty much the same as what's in version 9. They added some more, there's more content in version 9, but a lot of your original stuff is in version 8. That's kind of like a backup. If you wanted to, I'm not saying you guys have to do this. Try not to get too paranoid because there's always ways around things. But I could certainly take this. I could right click. I could do a copy. Then I'm going to come back here. I'm not going to do it, but I can come here and paste it. And then I just need to rename this Bernina 9 Embroidery Backup. Just something different. And then the software won't access it. I like to keep my screens a little cleaner because when I'm teaching, I don't want to be panicking, which I oftentimes do, sometimes off camera. But that's the location, right? That's the location, guys. Any questions on this?
We're not supposed to have those other two files, the bonus.
No, this I teach a lot of different things. So no,
Okay.
no, that's not you. So the other thing I wanted to show you, now you may not be able to see this, I don't know. If I come in here, I'm in my windows now. Do you see, does it look like a big black square? Or are you seeing like my windows operating here?
See your windows operating.
Very, very good. That's what I was hoping for. So I'm under, all I did was, let me get off of this. I came down here to the start menu. I left clicked. This is bringing up all your programs in your on your computer. Here I have Bernina version 9. I'm going to click down here. This is important. What I'm going to tell you right now is important. Look at this. It says here, purge recovery. Purge recovery. What can happen in our software, if your software is starting to behave poorly, like it's not saving things, it's not bringing up things you saved, etc. Purge recovery, what it does, it takes the buffer that Bernina has that it stores in the background, and it just wipes that memory out. These are just files you've worked on in the past. So don't, if you're a heavy user, this can sometimes be, how to say, a little persnickety, what have you. But to purge it oftentimes helps. The other thing that has helped, if you did a number with your interface and your graphic interface isn't looking like what you thought it would, and you don't want to admit it in public that you did all of these horrible sins because you were being adventuresome and you had not 1 but 3 glasses of wine, which can happen. What you can do is you can come down here where it says revert. And what revert will do is it will bring your software back to the state that it was originally in. It will bring the software back to the state it was originally in. Now, I'm going to post this video on YouTube, and maybe people that are watching this, because I have a lot of viewers. It's amazing. I wish they were in class, but I have a lot of viewers. I don't believe that it brings back your original designs. I don't believe that. It just resets the interface back to the normal template being Bernina, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you click on revert, it does that. What you can also do is if you've lost some of your designs, because things happen, you have a USB stick that you've installed your software on. If you click, if you put that in your computer and you click on the exe, the startup file to load the software, it'll ask you, do you want a full installation or do you want to repair? What you do is you select repair, and that should put all of your designs back to the way it had been. But my feelings on this is don't do that. Just do an insert embroidery. Insert embroidery is the magic key. Any questions on this? Okay. So I have this wine glass, and my understanding, and Kat, if you could just please, clarify. You mentioned that this looked really good on the white towel, but on the black towel, you didn't particularly care for the look of it. And I think you were saying it was the outlines that were not to your liking.
Right. On the black towel, instead of black, I used white.
Right.
But the outlines of the flowers didn't really show up.
Yeah, so your thought is, I would really like to take just this part of the outline. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So if this was created in our software, like you created this, then the good news is you could do exactly what you said. This was purchased, I presume, because if you can digitize this cat, I want you to teach all the classes. This is a gorgeous design. But do you see over here in my color film? So what Kat was saying is she was stitching this on a black towel. So what she did, because I consider Kat a more intermediate, advanced intermediate user of the software. She's been with me for many years. But what she did is she clicks on this color chip. Notice how it turned blue. And then what she did is she came down here. I'm going to just turn it not to white because you wouldn't be able to see it, but I'm going to turn it to, I don't know, like a green color. And so if you look, the outlines are all now in green. And if that's what she wanted, just like a lighter color on the black fabric, then it's a done deal. You know, by the way, you know, if you wanted to audition how this would look like on black fabric, what you could do is you could come up here under, let me just see here. I can go under design. I can go under background and display colors. And under my, my solid color, I want to say, I want this to be kind of a black. Yeah. And click on, ooh. Cat, just make it green. Did you guys know you could do that with the software? Maybe not. So again, when I'm auditioning, especially for colors and stuff, boy, to change that background, how did I do that? I went up to design and I come back down to where it says backgrounds and color display. Yeah. And then you could click here and you could change the color. You can even make it so like the color on the outside of the hoop is this and the color on the inside of the hoop might be this. So let me show you what I mean. If I click OK here and then I bring in a hoop, do you see how, let me just bring in my large oval. And I want a large oval. And do you see how, first of all, do you see how this doesn't fit in the hoop? But so you do need to see hoops now and then, but do you see how the color inside the hoop now is different than the outside? So you can do that in our software too. I don't know of a lot of programs that does that. That's pretty cool. But
I wish we'd done that when I did it on black towel. I might have.
Yeah, no, right. So let me just go back down, design, and I'm just gonna, well, what I'm gonna do is just okay this. I'm just gonna turn off the hoop so I can just see this. So again, a thought would be, because I'm trying to think of the simpler thing here, Kat. The thing that I would probably do is maybe change it from a white color, because that kind of looks funny around the petals. I know where you're coming from with this. I would probably change it like maybe to a greenish color or whatever. But you might say, girl, because that's my nickname. I want what I want. And so what I would say is, then you're going to be in for a world of hurt. No, you're gonna have to work a little bit, but let me kind of show you how I would do this. Okay. So the first thing I would do is I'm going to get rid of the black color. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to go under, because it's good to see this a couple of times. And I'm going to say here, and I'm going to say, I want mine to be kind of a whitish color, but I don't want it that white. So more colors, custom. Look at this. See how this is the current, this is the new? Generally speaking, folks, when I am digitizing, I don't say never. I generally don't digitize on pure white. And the other thing I generally don't do is digitize on pure black. And the reason why, when you run out of thread in your embroidery arsenal, the two colors you're going to need to replace more likely than not are white and black, right? So I don't want to have the background where I can't see the thread. So what I generally will do is I'll kind of take this and I'll make this kind of just like a little bit of an off-white, click on OK, and here we go, So what I would like to do is I want to look at this object, this leaf object. Now this is more advanced, so let some of this stuff wash off, guys. Don't worry about this so much. If I had the original digitizing, the original digitizing, this would be much easier, but this is a store purchase design. So am I interested in these things? No, these things are fine. I'm interested in this. So there's a couple of ways I can work with this. One way I can work with this is I can right click on this and I can say hide others.
Mhm.
And what that does is there's like a cross hash now along these other color chips, but these other things are not getting in my way. The other way I could do this is I could have had this selected, copied it, opened a new page, a new window, pasted it there so I've got another duplicate, work what I need to work with, and then bring it back over. The benefit of working with it the second way is I have the original still in that original file, right? So if I mess up, the original is still there. So the thing I would tell you is when you're looking at things like this, it depends on how this was originally digitized. So when I click here and I look under like say objects, like this is no longer by color. I clicked right up here, guys. If I come down here, these are all of the objects that make up this design. Look at all these objects.
Wow.
And I'm going to keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. It's all the way down at the end. This is what's selected. Blue boxes are around it. These are the objects, right? So as I come down here, it's like, excuse me, if I click on one of these guys, and let me get into editing view. This is awful light thread.
Could you
I'm
turn
gonna,
it back to black so I can see it?
pardon me?
Could you turn it back to black so we can see
Yeah,
it?
I'm gonna do something for you. Because that's how I work. I'm not gonna go black because it's hard on the eyes in another way.
And the thread, turn the thread back.
Pardon
Oh,
me?
there we go.
Well, the difference here, guys, is this is an artistic view. This is an editing view. And I gotta say that doesn't really help because I'm having trouble seeing it. I'm gonna actually do what I don't want to do, and I'm gonna go to white, see if that's any better. Bear with me. Background. Okay, yeah. So sometimes you need white. Okay, there you go. So I have this. If I select an object, do you see how it turns purple?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in what they call editing view. If I come up here, this is called artistic view. It looks really pretty, doesn't it? It's showing what the stitches look like, but I can't really see exactly what's being selected. I see the selection boxes around here, but I don't know where exactly does the stitching stop. If I go into editing view, I can see pretty much what's pink is what is selected, right?
Mhm.
Okay. T, by the way, T as in Tom, is how you toggle this back and forth. Keyboard shortcuts are good to know. I do a lot of things without keyboard shortcuts because I know the icons, but things like Control A, D to duplicate, those types of things are good things to know. If I click here, do you see how this is this piece here,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I could, Kat, select each of these and change that to the color that you just wanted the outline of the flower to, right? The issue is going to be like when I get here, do you see how the bowl is now part of this flower?
Right.
So what I would need to do is we would need to break this design apart, or we would need to cut it in some way. We do have in our software something called a knife tool. And this works well unless it doesn't. And what I find happens is this works well with things that I am digitizing that are inherent to Bernina's software. Let me come back out. I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to pick a darker color. I'm going to come into digitizing. This is something that many of you may not know you can do. open freehand draw. You know, when I teach classes on doing quilting in the hoop, I oftentimes have people draw stippling patterns, etc. So look what I can do. This is amazing. I can take this and I can draw. I'm doing this with a mouse. I'd rather do this with a tablet, but you can kind of see what's going down. So I have this here. Let me go ahead and select it. I'm going to put it into True View. Let me zoom in on this. And I'm going to say, actually, let me zoom to selected. And now it'll just bring this up here. So let's say, for instance, this was your bowl. This was your bowl for the wine glass, etc. And what you need to do is you need to break this line, so that, let's say, the flower was here and the rest of the bowl started here. What I can do if I digitize this, I can come under Edit. I can come under the knife. And you see this object down here?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is the last object I drew.
Yep.
I'm going to click here, click Enter. Do you see my object? It's now two objects, right? Guess what I can do? I can take this object, turn it to this color. And do you see now how I've separated out the color?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the difference was, who drew this? I drew it. Who drew that flower, wine goblet? Someone that could draw, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't me. So if you're saying, but Shannon, because that's how you do me, Kat. You say, but Shannon. what I can do is, let me first grab these guys and just delete this. I'm going to go ahead and I want to bring in that wine goblet once again. And I want to go to fit. What I could do is I could take this. This is going to be crazy. I can come over here. This is selected, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is important to note. This is selected. I can come over here to convert. And what this is going to do is it's going to convert the shape to a vector.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to click on OK. It takes a while to think because there's a lot of calculations.
Mm.
And so here I have my wine goblet. Notice how I still have the flowers, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That's embroidery. It's being shown only because I have, this is Corel, by the way, guys. This is not our embroidery canvas. This is the Corel program. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn off the embroidery stitches. So all I'm seeing now is the vector component. Can I do anything with embroidery stitches in Corel? Everyone say no. It's
No.
object-based. It is vector and bitmap, raster images, etc. If I come over here to objects, do you see all of these curves?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yep.
this now, I could certainly come in here and I could say, I want to go into reshape. Here are all the points that make up
Oh,
this
wow.
object. And let's say it's right here that I need to break this apart. I can click here, right click, I should say, and I can say break apart. And then that'll split that line and it'll create another object there for you. And you would have to see how this is pathed and clip everything away from the wine goblet to only get this.
Mm-hmm.
Or, Kat, you could change the color to a lime green and be done with it. But I wanted to show you it can be done. It's just, it's going to be a little more work. It's going to be a little more work. So I want to also discuss, because there were some other questions. So the one question my girl Kat had for me was inserting color stops. In some software programs, I can do this. You know where I can do this? There is a very inexpensive program called Embroidery Essentials. That is the cat's meow for this type of work, because I can run through the stitch out, stop it where I need to, right click and just say insert color change. And it will do this. Bernina is more object based. It's not stitch based. So you don't have that control. I need to create separate objects, which would make them, let me go back to embroidery canvas, which in essence will, and here we go. So in essence, it'll, I didn't bring it back over. We're missing the goblet because I didn't have it selected and brought it back over, but that's neither here nor there. We can still see it though. And let me just unhide all. Okay, so we have the original object here. If it's an object, I can change it to what other color I want. These are by color groups. These are once again by little components like, excuse me, where am I here? So this is selecting, what is this select? This is selecting this part down here. Do you see where this guy here? You see where it's kind of pink here?
Mhm.
That's an object. I could come in here and change that to a blue color. See how I just changed that to blue,
Mhm.
right? So long as it's an object, I can change objects to what other color. But this is an object-based system. It is not a stitch-based system. And there are advantages and disadvantages to both philosophies of doing things. Okay. So inserting color stops, not so much, but other programs, we can do that. Where are things saved was a question I think we just answered. Again, when you do save as, you point to where you want it to be saved. If you wanted to save things to My Designs under your Bernina, that would be, again, the C, users, public, embroidery, Bernina version 9, and you could save it wherever you wanted to save there and create your own folder like my Designs, that type of thing. I'm just going over this here. Open design. We talked about opening designs, inserting, bring a paid design in. These are the main questions I had. We talked a little bit about the thread palette, changing it to what I want. Am I stuck with only one palette? That wasn't a question that was given to me, but I'm going to tell you absolutely not. You can have multiple colors from different manufacturers here. And how you would do that is, let's say, for instance, this color here, this Bernina 18, if you will. If I come up here, I'm sorry, down here to the right, where it looks like a spool of thread, this brings me to the color palette. And I won't get a lot into this because this can be a class unto itself. But I can click here and notice that it's telling me that these are all isocore colors, which is great. But what if I wanted to use an additional palette? I just clicked here. And let's say, for instance, I use Floriani, and I do. I like Floriani. So I click here, and I'm going to add this to my palette. So now I've got Floriani, and I've got isocore. And I can come over here, and let's just say, I want this particular Floriani color here. And when I double click on that, if I come down here, do you see how this says Floriani now? Down here on the bottom?
Yep.
Yeah. If I come over here, see how it says Bernina?
Mhm.
Yep.
Coming back over here, this says Floriani. And you could do the same thing. And if you save that, like if I wanted to take the time, I don't, but some of you might, because I'm going to just tell you this right now. When I'm embroidering and I'm just amongst my own thoughts and in my underwear generally, when I'm embroidering and I need color 2234, which is a brick red, I go to my shelf. I'll show you when I get back on the video. I got this wall of thread here, and I'm just saying, this looks good enough for me. And I put that one on my machine. I know you guys don't do that, but I do. So it's more the shades that I'm worried about. But if you wanted to, and some of us do, if you wanted to, you could certainly come in here and under design. We were here before when we were setting up the palette, thread colors. And you could create your own palette, if you will, by edit. You would call it, a different name that would be like my thread chart. And you would go into each of these, like this color here, you would come here and say, well, I have Gutermann metallic for this. And you would say, when this is selected, let me just select one. If you click, see here where it says Bernina, I have Gutermann here. If I say assign, do you see how now it says Gutermann, right? It changed that color. And I could design my own palette if I wanted to. I particularly don't, but but by all means, if you were bored, absolute. Another thing with the thread palette, which is like really cool, let me bring in another design. I'm going to come into insert design because I don't want to change anything. And I want to go back to where my Bernina designs are located. So this is a good review. See, users, public embroidery, version 9. And I'm going to go under, let's just say, celebrations and seasons. If you have a list, when this is Windows File Explorer, it's just interface with Bernina. If you have your designs are kind of like in a list here, what I can do is I can come up here and instead of saying, show a list, I want it to like maybe show me, I don't know, medium icons. And it'll show me medium size icons. And so I'm going to just take, oh gosh, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to take these balloons and I'm going to notice how I'm under version 9 software, right? Embroidery 9. Look at what it's telling me. What is the file name? Art 8, and the title was saved in Art 7. This is how long the software has been, this design has been with us in Bernina since version 7. Okay. So I'm going to click on OK. And it actually put the balloons right on top of my little wine glass. I have this guy selected, and I'm going to just, I am going to select the wine glass because I think we're done with him. Delete. Oh, that's, so this is good. I'm glad this happens to me always on air, and I panic only for a little bit. My heart rate goes up a little bit and then I'm okay again. Do you notice that I've got this wine glass and I can't delete it, right? I can't select it. I can't do nothing. It's because this is a vector. Remember, I worked in Corel. So for me to get rid of vectors from view, I just come up here and I say, hide the vector. I don't need to see that right now. So I've got this. Let me go ahead and have him zoom to fit. And so let's just say I have this happy birthday design balloon thing. And, you know, I really want to see how this looks like in different colorways. Or let me first just see what it looks like if I change the colors around. So you got these like buttons over here, like this thing called cycle with used colors. So the colors that are in this design will get replaced. Look what I mean. I'm going to go. Yeah. So it's taking the same colors that are in this. It just puts it into a different place. So let's say I'm not happy with any of that. I could certainly go back and like undo, get back to the original. Here's the original. Another way I could do this, I could go here. This is the color wheel. Those of you with 7 series machines, 8 series machines, I believe both have this functionality too. It's called the color wheel. This is like so big. Let me get this. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get this over. Cancel. This I want stage right. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Hey, if I want to resize something, I could take this, resize it proportionately. I could take this and put in exactly how big I want. This is proportionally locked. So I'm going to say, I want this to be no wider than 3 inches. Click on enter. It's another way to resize. So I'm going to have this select. I'm coming into the color wheel. Still bring this over here. And this is showing me all of the different colors based on this color here. And notice what happens when I click and drag. And this is just something that, you know, as you're working with this, it'll start updating the colors over here. You can kind of see how I'm kind of making it more green here. I can change the intensity, like make it a little bit darker. And then when I click on OK, it's changed the colors this way. And the most important thing is it's changing and giving me the actual color names. So for me to get that green, I need 5650, which is called reflection by Isacore, or again, I look at my thread wall and say, yep, that's good enough for me. So does anyone have any questions while I'm still in the software? So I'm going to go back and share my screen so we can all see each other again. And here we are back live. So I'm hoping that that was helpful.
Yes, that is very helpful.
Thank you for the feedback. Yes. So, again, we can certainly do a class where I can show you some, not necessarily random things. There's generally some, oh, by the way, there's the thread wall. So just pick a color, right? You could certainly, I could certainly make this what I want to show you that day, but I would much rather it be questions that you have. And you will have questions when you're using the software. I'm just saying, when you come to class, you get the PDFs, all that stuff that I've already mentioned. You work through the exercises, and then write down on the handout. Like, I've got questions on this. Like, this again is like, I've been teaching this since version 4, by the way. But when Debbie teaches, I'm always writing down things that she says, because she always gives a pearl of information. And even though in today's class, I've had some advanced users, I know who you guys are. I'm glad you were here, because even if it's a more foundational class, I don't want to say basic, a foundational class, we always can pick up new information. But it'd be nice to actually expound upon the lessons that we get. Again, the next class is going to be on March 11th, Saturday, 10:30 to 12:30. It's a 2-hour class. When we're done with DesignWorks, I will probably do something like this with some regularity, and probably in the space that I have DesignWorks currently. Again, folks, with the DesignWorks software, again, we don't have that many more lessons. So come to class, sign up for it, at least so you can get the materials and take it from there. So any other questions for the good of the order before I let you guys go and enjoy this rather cloudy Saturday? Anything else? All right, guys.
This is great.
Well, and I'm glad to hear that. And that's important to me.
Can I ask a question? I want to ask a general question.
Yes, please.
What are people doing with this? What are they using it for? I'm doing basic embroidery right now. I buy a pattern, I print it out, and why are people doing this? What is their motivation? Maybe Kat can answer that question.
Well, actually, let me answer that, because I sell this stuff. So
Okay.
when I worked the store, and then Kat can certainly chime in. When I sell software, one of the things I ask people is, what do you want to do with it? And you know what I get? I want to personalize items. I want to personalize a design. And with the machines that I think all of you have, you can do that on your machine. You really can. You can bring in the design, and then you got a font section. You can program that in. Absolutely. Smaller screen on a machine, not as quick, not as many fonts, not as much ability to change, like letters. Like if you were going to do a happy birthday and you wanted the H to be big and tall and slanted and askewed, you can't do that on the machine, but you can certainly personalize items. You certainly can. So that's why they created like the software like Bernina Creator, just for those types of customers. That software program, not Bernina related, called Embrilliance, I think that fits for the people that come into the store. I think that solves the needs for 80% of the people out there. The customer that gets this level of software, which is a full digitizing program, it's for people that actually take pictures and you can automatically digitize them. You can do manual digitizing. That's for another class here or there. But it's to make you no longer dependent on purchasing designs from elsewhere, or taking in designs just like Kat did and changing things about them to make it fit what you want it to be doing. I've been doing this for a while, so I've actually sold designs. So people say, I want this, I have a dog kennel, I want the dog in a dog bed and the blah, blah. I can digitize all that and create that, but I've been doing this for a bit, okay? When people are, like if they're gonna buy a new machine or if they're gonna buy software, I always ask them, what do you want today, which is to personalize things, and what do you want 10 years from now? Which is oftentimes more than just personalizing things. If you get into this, you want those tools. If I don't use the tools, that's okay. I still have access, but if I wanted those tools and I get something that is not quite where I need it to be, then that's kind of frustrating. Bernina, if you had like creator software, you can go into the Designer Plus, you know, there's an upgrade fee for that, but you can certainly do that. But I tell people, you know, purchase things based on what you think your needs are today, what you can afford. That's, you know, if this takes food off the table or your inability to pay rent, don't go there. You have to go to counseling first. Don't go there. But for people that, you know, this is my creative life, I'm retired now, this is what I do. You can see back here, I've got a lot of equipment. That's my gist on it. Kat, do you have any additional comments?
No, I use it a lot. I recently did something for my niece's wedding where I found a flower design that I liked, but I broke it apart and used this flower and that leaf and put it all back together and made a little, you know, Megan and Cody and the date and
Nice.
you know, so she can actually sew it. She wanted something blue to sew into the dress because she's not having a garter. So I, you know, changed the flowers to blue and I, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, just to your point, you said you had some purchase designs and because Bernina's object-based, you saw with that wine glass, I could see the different objects. I can't generally do more than that unless I bring it to Corel, but you could take like maybe the outline of the wine glass. So you don't have the petals in there, bring it into another design, add your own elements in there. So that's I would consider that design manipulation, which Bernina does extremely well at.
I've used mine to make a logo for, I make bags and
Yeah,
dresses. So I designed my own logo and I had a lot of scope using elements from lots of places and putting them together, and also to make tags. Like when I sew garments, so I make my own custom tags using the software. I'm cat crazy, so like I try to digitize things that make me happy.
yeah. And you know,
I make custom, yeah, I make custom labels for my quilts, all of them, and
yes.
that's one of the major things that I do, and it's worth it for me to have the software.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I appreciate your comment, Marie, as far as making custom quilts labels. That's one thing we're discussing in March 11th class. By the way, with the monogramming, it's much more than just the monogram like on a towel. So you can either join us. But also, Amanda, I really loved what you just said. You know, I do these things because it makes me happy. You know, and no judgment here, guys, but I know many of you, and I think there's more water under the bridge that's coming to the bridge. So by all means, do things that are going to make you happy, you know, and if you enjoy it, and again, using the software, getting into it and using it, I think is so important. And again, that's where those exercises really help, because you may not be wanting to do monograms, but you're in the software, you're manipulating it, questions will come up, and you might be thinking, well, I don't know how to change the fill or to make the density not so dense. I want to digitize on a knit versus a woven. Those questions will come up, but only if you're using the software, right? So with that, do please consider March 11th will be our next class, either at Steve Sewenbach or Burn Sewing. Love both dealers for having these programs, and we'll take it from there. So see you next time.
Can you stay a minute?
Sure, I'm going to just stop the recording.